every time we match up against y'all really wasn't scared, so we had to work.
It was unbelievable. It was the worst officiated game in my sports writing career.
And he's going to come, an elbow. Yes. This all the way. Look at his feet. His feet are outside of Robert Horry's.
It was an embarrassment to the league that it was the worst officiated contest in professional basketball.
And that's why we took y'all to Game 7 where we beat y'all on y'all floor.
Yeah. No, it was just, all it took was you and some dirty refs.
The 2002 Western Conference Finals between the Los Angeles Lakers versus Sacramento Kings was as hotly contested as it's still hotly debated. Many believe the NBA and refs rigged the series. Like we haven't heard that one before. The TV ratings would have suffered if it was a Nets versus Kings finals. Commissioner David Stern even chimed in on the finals matchup saying, Lakers versus Lakers. I would be lying if I told you there wasn't a special fascination with the Lakers. Game 6 of this back and forth series has gone down in infamy. Did the refs fix the game so the Lakers wouldn't get eliminated? Does this taint the Lakers three-peat? We get into that today. Hello, and welcome to Sports Vaults, presented by D.A.T.A Productions, uncovering the untold, lost, and forgotten files of the sports world. To effectively analyze the scrutinized Game 6 of this series between the Lakers and Kings, we first must understand how both teams got to this point. The Kings had finished the regular season with a record of 61-21 and had a non-selfish play. They fully believed they are ready to win the NBA championship. They had a solid core of Chris Webber, Doug Christie, Vlade Divac, Mike Bibby, and Peja Stojakovic. They were ready to compete for a ring. Meanwhile, the Lakers had a relatively down season, dealing with chemistry issues with Shaq and Kobe, mostly stemming from Shaq's unwillingness to stay in shape, but they were good enough to reach the Western Conference Finals. There was already bad blood between the teams.
I'm not worried about the Sacramento Queens.
The Los Angeles Lakers and Sacramento Kings had already played each other in the previous two playoffs. Lakers had won both series, obviously meaning the Kings wanted to get their revenge. Many felt the underdogs were still the Kings, even though they had home court advantage and they had a better record. Everyone was surprised when the Kings had jumped to a 3-2 series lead, which meant Game 6 was in Los Angeles. On par with the whole series, the reffing was pretty egregious for both sides. Now granted, in playoff basketball, refs miss calls. That's on purpose. You let the players play the game. But they were missing blatant fouls on both ends. So when you look at the series as a whole, I wouldn't say either side had favoritism because even the Kings had won some games because of the reffing. But looking at the game, the Lakers had shot 44 free throws in total, but 27 of them came in the fourth quarter alone. Scott Pollard fouled out in 11 minutes, Vlade Divac had fouled out on a questionable call, and Chris Webber had 5 fouls. The last 3 minutes is where things get really egregious.
Taking it to the rim, and it's a one-point game. So Hedo Turkoglu is able to hit on the drive, and here's Christie on the foul once again. Kobe
Bryant clearly elbows Mike Bibby straight in the face. No offensive foul call. Kobe gets the inbound and hits the 2 free throws. And the Lakers won Game 7 in Sacramento. The Lakers went on to win the 2002 NBA championship, completing their three-peat, while the Kings slowly ebbed back into being an afterthought in the coming years. As I touched on in my 1985 NBA lottery video, David Stern was never above fixing a game or an event if it's for the benefit of the National Basketball Association. If the NBA is worried about TV ratings, which translates into money, of course they will do anything in their power to make sure they get the outcome they desire. Without TV money, none of these professional sports leagues would last. Or they would survive, but none of the leagues would look as grandiose as they are right now. Disgraced ex-referee Tim Donaghy alleged as much in a filing made by his attorney in U.S. District Court in New York, saying the highly controversial Game 6 of the Lakers-Kings playoff series in 2002 was impacted by the actions of 2 of the 3 referees who worked the game.
He's a singing, cooperating witness who is trying to get as light a sentence as he can.
The allegations are some of the strongest ever made against the NBA. Rightfully so. In the letter submitted by Donaghy's attorney, the following manipulation is alleged. Referees A, F, and G were officiating a playoff series between teams 5 and 6 in May of 2002. It was the 6th of a 7-game series, and a Team 5 victory that night would have ended the series. However, Tim learned from referee A that referee A and F wanted to extend the series to 7 games. Tim knew referees A and F to be company men, always acting in the interest of the NBA. And that night, it was the NBA's interest to add another game to the series. Referees A and F heavily favored Team 6. Personal fouls, resulting in obviously injured players, were ignored even when they occurred in full view of referees. Conversely, the referees called made-up fouls on Team 5 in order to give additional free throw opportunities for Team 6. Their foul calling also led to the ejection of 2 Team 5 players. The referees' favoring of Team 6 led to that team's victory that night, and Team 6 came back from behind to win that series. Although no teams are specifically named, it is not hard to deduce the game in question. The Lakers-Kings series was the only one that postseason that went to 7 games. And the officiating in Game 6 was so questionable, former presidential candidate Ralph Nader called for a formal investigation. If you ask me, I believe they rigged it. It only makes sense. But honestly, I think they made it up to Chris Webber by giving him a sports broadcasting job so early in his post-basketball career. For the longest time, he was not that good of an announcer, and they wouldn't pull him off any of the big games. I mean, he was not that good. I promise you, he wasn't. But they allowed him to develop, and now, I mean, he's pretty decent, I guess. But that's just me. What's your take on this topic? Do you think the NBA and refs fixed Game 6? Let me know your thoughts below in the comments. Like and subscribe for more investigation content like this. This was Sports Vaults, presented by D.A.T.A Productions. See you next time.